All right, it's growth time. So 73% of people say that they manage stress, that they are feeling stress that impacts their mental health. So 73% of people have stress that impacts their mental health. 40 million people report yearly that there's an anxiety disorder that they're suffering or working through. And within our youth, age 12 to 17, it's actually alarming that almost 15% experience a massive depressive episode. So those stats are pretty overwhelming, and it's a reality where our culture and our days and our time sit. That mental health, stress, anxiety, depression are real, and the reality is that we have to navigate that. So today on Growth Time, we're just going to take a quick look on how to actually have one word of hope, and how that word hope can link with our humanity, within us, and with divinity, with God, to help break through, to help overcome. So we're going to look at that today through the story of Ziglag. Yes, Ziglag, interesting story. But I did some research online recently, and what I found was that contemporary psychologists look at hope defined as a way of thinking and a way of behavior. So hope defined as a way of thinking and behavior, not just some kind of unicorn or some dreamland. Hope can actually be defined like that. And I read a report on the Mayo Clinic that there was a link between hopeful thinking and the effect of lowering stress and stress levels. And that kind of makes sense. And the research was overwhelming that people had more hope, general better health, were better in relationships, which was key. And then also the people who had more hope were very proactive. They were proactive with their behaviors and actions in doing something. And they also had lower levels of depression. So there's this link of hope. So when we look at that, we have to think this story of Ziglag I want to share today. It's really impactful. And I'll give you some backdrop to it. It's in your playbook, Coach's Playbook, the Bible, and it's in the historical account in the book of Samuel. And it tells the story of David. David was a leader who had a passion and a dream, and he had hope to become king someday. But yet at his present moment, he was actually, going through adversity. He was actually living in the land that wasn't his own, struggling and wrestling with a group of people to just do his job, do his work, and he was in a tough spot. And in this journey, he's living in a place called Ziglag. And in that space, he's doing his work, he's going off with his leaders and his group of followers each day, and he comes back to his town and it's burned down. And his wives, his kids, everyone's leaders, kids, and family is just gone. They're just taken. Raiders had taken over, burned the village, all their goods were gone. You could just imagine what was going through David's mind. If he didn't already have anxiety and stress and frustration from not being in his own country, but living in this place called Ziglag, doing the right thing, but yet now he was actually under attack. Like his whole family and the people that he was leading were just ravaged. And then if that didn't make matters worse with that stress and anxiety, is that the people wanted to turn on him. His own people were so upset and so bitter that they wanted to turn on him and thought of stoning him. You can only imagine what was going through his mind as a leader. But yet here's what David did, and then here's the thought of how hope can be that great link to stir things within you, to stir things within others, so that you can move forward, so you can break free. David did one impactful thing, I'd say two, I'd argue, is that he encouraged himself in the Lord. He stirred up hope within so that he didn't fall under the waves, the anxiety, and the depression, and the struggles that his adversity was hitting him with. He encouraged himself in the Lord. And what does that look like? Well, I think it looks like two things. I think there is that mental human aspect, and I actually did some research on it, and there's a whole therapy around it called hope therapy, where people can retrain and reprogram almost in a sense, or patterns of thinking that would bring hope. They write it out, they journal, they speak it out, things about possibilities. They talk to others and explore the idea of hope and how hope can open up their world or open up possibilities and start to diminish the effects of stress, start to diminish the effects of anxiety, and start to kind of break through from any kind of depression. So there's a tremendous power there as we as people can take certain actions in our own thought process to kind of stir up hope. And then the second part that was really interesting, which I think is so vital and so key for our times and our generation, is having that faith in Coach, having that relationship. Because David encouraged himself in spending time in that relationship with Coach, with God, that he knew that if he could get hope, And truly, hope originates with God. The Bible, the playbook, talks about all hope. Hope starts with the Lord. It starts with Him. Like He's the God of all hope. And then actually through Jesus, it talks about you'll never be disappointed. You'll never be put to shame with hope in Him. And the plans and purposes that God has for your life is to give you a hope and a future. So there are some great lessons in the playbook and great words that will actually then give you confidence that God has a plan, Coach has a plan for you. And you just got to awaken that. You got to stir it up in that relationship. And you got to start seeing the vision or the bigger picture that God has a plan, that God's best days ahead for you. God's best is forward and never behind. And I think that's what David did. He made a mental decision to stir up hope. He then actually developed and had that relationship with God. He drew on some strength in the words of God and began to move forward. And what happened? He got into action. Things shifted and changed. He grouped the people together as leaders. He band them together. He went on assault. He brought the people back. He won the victory and he was restored. So there's some fantastic lessons there. And I just wanted to share that thought because so many people walk through anxiety, depression, uncertainty, and we all walk through it. We all have that journey in our story. I've walked through it. I walked through it in the moment in terms of how to navigate when those mental thoughts and perceptions come to us. How do we fight back? How do we not be overcome? And that's some great story we all need to work through. And hope is that key link that will stir things up. So that was just kind of like some messaging, some thoughts that have been on my heart to share in growth time. That if you need to move past things, if you need to reduce your stress, stir up hope, write it out, get into your faith, start hearing what God has to say, and let that hope arise. Let that hope go forward. And look, if you're full of hope, your responsibility is to go share hope with others. Go be a hope giver. Give hope to others. Encourage their dreams. Encourage their goals. Be filled with hope. That's the message. That's growth time. What time is it? It's growth time, baby.